Hey guys, we're back. And it struck me that about 6 months ago, I think it was, I did an unboxing. And since then, I've also done a video about the insert I made for Twilight Imperium. But I never got around to actually making the review video of it. And since then, we've played a ton of games, way more than probably the average TI player has. And I'd like to get in and talk about my thoughts on the game as a whole. Most people play TI probably once a year, seems to be the average when you talk to the people online and things like that. We've actually started up a local, I wouldn't call it a league, but a play group for it, and we played every month since we got the game, with like one exception in there. We had to skip a month or something, but we have played a lot of games since then, not counting games I've played online and things. And gonna get in here and open it up and tell you what I think about it. So first thing, if you haven't seen the unboxing video, we'll go through the components in here, and there's a lot of stuff that probably shouldn't be in here, and I apologize for it, but I wasn't going to separate it all back out for this video. So there is stuff in here. From right here on the top are the codexes, codex 1, 2, and 3. Those were add-on, basically, I don't know what you'd call them, update errata packs or whatever, made by the designer of the game to add some new content in, to update some old stuff and things like that. So these are actually printed out versions I got from Game Center, but they were available as free print and play copies from the designer of the game, Fantasy Flight Games. You just downloaded them, printed them out, and did whatever you wanted. They were in PDFs, but these actual reference copies, I like having the official ones here. Of course, the 3D printed insert does not come with it, but we've got our scoring trackers there. All the different colors, and again, there's 8 of these because there are some from the expansion pack. There are a lot of components to this game. Then we have, I've done these, I think these are different from when I did my thing on my insert, but we have the secret objectives. No, those are action cards. Action cards. More action cards. The draft cards that explain the different races. Your objective cards. There's the secret objective cards. Planet cards. Agenda cards. Have all the planet tiles here, all our exploration decks in there, all our tokens of various kinds in there, and then in the bottom here are all the different faction boxes. Each one of these has a different playable faction in them. Some got put away backward, not that that matters, but yeah, so I'm not going to do how to play like a lot of my review videos. I'll do a quick how to play. There's just too much to this game to explain how to do it. And there's so many other videos already out there. So if you're looking for that, you can find it elsewhere. But I just wanted to show off kind of my storage here, but how much there actually is in here. And talk about what the game's actually like. And the game itself is not overly complicated, despite all of these components and all the horror stories you hear about it going 10, 12 hours. The game itself is actually fairly simple. It's the optional things that are there that make it more complex. It's the diplomacy going on between the players and that interaction, and that's one of the main parts of the game that I enjoy. And that's also one of the main things that makes the game last longer. If you get some people who aren't very talkative, aren't making a lot of deals, and aren't wheeling and dealing in the background, then the game moves along pretty quickly. Although I don't think it's necessarily as much fun. Everybody has their own little territories, and you have so many planets near your home system, and you're basically making deals with your neighbors hey, you know, I can move a ship here. We'll be next to each other. We can trade. This planet here is the same distance from both of our home worlds, but I really need that one for the resources. If I take that, you know, I can give you this in return, or will you, you know, what do we have to make the deal for I can take that, or I'm not going to, you know, spark a war and things like that. Each of the factions plays pretty differently in my opinion, and that's kind of interesting. There's 17 factions in the base set here, and everyone is different enough that they feel like a unique and individual race. And I played, what do we play now? 8 games, I think, with the box set here. Each one of those I played a different race. I haven't played the same race twice yet. And there's definitely some that I like better than others. But it all comes down to your play style, what you're looking for, and things like that, which I just noticed that those aren't even in here. I keep those in the expansion box. So there are some more stuff that aren't in here, namely the race boards and then the little control panels that attach to them. But the basic gist of the game is that you have your home system and you're expanding. If I can get these out of here. You have your home system. You have a handful of starting units. I don't know what theirs are off the top of my head, but generally it's a couple fighters. Maybe you have a carrier, some ground units. You'll have a space dock of some kind so that you can produce new units. And maybe a cruiser or something to help escort things. And then you're going to have systems around you. I know I said I wasn't doing a whole how to play, so this is just a real quick. And then you're going to be spending your tactical tokens to move. So in this case, you can move to this system. You activate a system that you want to move to. Then you designate what's going to move. So we're going to have this carrier go. He's going to take the 2 infantry and drop 1 on each of those planets. And then maybe a fighter or 2 for support, because the carrier can carry multiple things. And so on throughout the course. If you had another, I only put 1 transport down there, but if you had something else that could transport something, you could leave a guy behind and then have another unit take him to another planet. But you're slowly expanding your influence. You gain the planets, and each of the planets has a production value and a influence value, and those can be used, or resource and influence I should say, those can be used for various things in order to build, which is where production comes into play, or you can use the influence to vote in the agenda phase, things like that. As the game progresses, you're going to get more and more planets. Like you already start with the ones on your home system. Now we're going to have these. Later on, we can move over here, take that planet. So we'd have that one added to our collection as well. And so you grow, your influence, your power grows, your fleet sizes grow as you build more and more ships. And you're using different resources that you have to make alliances with your nearby opponents. So you have these deck of promissory notes. And sorry for the glare. These can be used to basically sweeten deals with your opponents. I won't take this planet over here, or I will take this planet. And I'm going to take one of these 2 planets in this system because I say it's over here. If they're like this, and your opponent would be over here. So this planet here would be equal distance between you and your opponent. And so it's kind of up for grabs between the 2 of you. And you say, hey, I'm going to go here, but I only want this planet. I'm not going to take the other one. And I can give you one of these trade agreements to sweeten that deal, like a trade I always call them trade agreements, but that's specifically one. These promissory notes. And I can give you, say, my trade agreement, which guarantees that I will give you some of my commodities later in exchange for, you know, not starting a war over this. And then I'm going to go here and I'm only going to colonize this planet. And I'm going to leave that other one for you and eventually move back out of there. And then you can colonize that other planet. Because I only needed this one because I wanted the 3 influence or whatever. You know, there's all different reasons. Sometimes you need, like this one here has a blue tech skip. So maybe you only wanted the blue tech skip planet. Things like that. So these make you cool wheeling and dealing. Support for the throne gives you outright a point. But if they ever activate one of your systems, they have to give this back and they lose that point. So there's different things like that. Political secret makes it so they can't vote come the voting time. Alliance, you basically get access to that player's commander, which is something from POK. Sorry, like I said, I mixed the stuff in there. But, so those are interesting and add a cool twist to the game. And then, of course, you have the normal stuff in any 4X game. You have technologies and upgrades that you can research. And these decks are designated by these. Upgrades are basically new and improved versions of units you already have. So like that carrier there. We could boost up the movement by 1, and this boosts up the capacity by 2, I think. They start a sporty cult. But you have those. And then every race shares those, as well as the tech upgrades. They're split up into 4 technology trees, and I'm never going to get the right which ones are which. We go by colors. But you have the blue, which is arguably the better path. You have the green. They're stuck together. And then the red, which is your aggressive path. And then the yellow, which other than Starwing tools, doesn't get used too much, I don't think. But every race shares those as well. And then you slowly upgrade your path, and you can see how some of these require, down in the corner, they require that you already have that. So in this case, this requires a blue tech skip, which that planet we were looking at earlier has a blue tech skip on it. We could get that without having to already have a blue tech. Otherwise, you take the ones with no requirements, they give you this over here. So eventually you'll get, okay, now we have 2, now we can look at the 2 blues, and so on. So you build your path through those. I really like that system. It works very well, even though there's some that are obviously better than others. There are some that are situational and depend on the map that you're on. Do you have an asteroid field right in front of your home system? Maybe you want to take anti-mass deflectors. Are you playing a faction that's really good with PDS, the space cannons that shoot? Then you might want to take plasma scoring, I think it is. People are going to call me out for saying the wrong thing. I think it's plasma scoring. That allows you to roll additional die. I think Graviton Laser is the other good one that allows PDS to do. Can assign their hits to non-fighters. So things like that, depending on what you're playing. And then on top of that, every race that you play has its own set of cards. Now, some of these are from POK. So there we have our home systems. The agent, the hero, and the commander are from POK. So is the mech. But here we have a upgraded fighter that's available. And these are better than the stock fighters. And then we have a tech one here. It's a 3 green. For the Neuroglaive, this is for the Nalu. Just happened to be who I grabbed. But every race has 2 that's specific, unique to their race. In this case, we have 1 unit upgrade and 1 tech upgrade. Some have 2 unit upgrades, some have 2 tech upgrades. It all depends on the race. And then if you're playing POK, they also have a faction-specific promissory note. And then this actually goes, this is one of the cards from the Codex that goes with that Alliance card. If you give somebody your Alliance, so they don't have to keep looking at your commander, you have your commander available to just give them a copy of. But again, that is the quick basics of, you know, what you're looking to do. Ideally, you're trying to score those 10 points on the grid here. You get to 10, first to 10 wins. And you do that by achieving these objectives that are going to be popped out here. The level 1 ones are worth 1 point. The level 2s are worth 2 points. And then you have the secret ones too that you can have up to 3 of. Although we did have a thread going on BGG recently about how you can get 5 or more on the secret objectives, but it requires the exact combination of agendas to come up and things to work perfectly in your favor. It's still kind of funny to think about, though. But yeah, throughout the course of the game, you're going to be basically trying to complete one of these objectives a turn. You're allowed to do one public and one secret during the status phase, and then some of the secrets can be scored at specific phases. And see if you got one here. There's an action phase one right there. Win a combat and an anomaly. So they give you little objectives to go towards, and in doing so, gives you your direction for the turn. So you may have an original plan, looked at your map and said, all right, I want to do this, I want to do this, but then an objective comes up, destroy something. All right, well, now that I want to do that, I can deal with this neighbor over here. Hey, of course they're going to know you're up to something, but you can bluff, you can tell them the truth. You can say, hey, if you leave a single ship here that I can come in and blow up, I'll give you something in return. A couple trade goods, something like that. Refresh you for free if I use the trade strategy card. Things like that. You can tell them straight up, hey, it's for a secret. I can score a point off it. And it might make it worth more to them, so they might want more in return for that, but it's kind of a give and take kind of thing. Overall, though, the gameplay is, like I said, pretty straightforward and easy. It is the interactions with the other players, the alliances, the backstabbing, the do I make a deal with this person? This guy offered me more. The guy on my left offered me more to not do this than the guy on the right offered me to do it. Who do I want to, do I want to piss them off and not do it because they're giving me a better deal? And that's the kind of decisions you make the whole game, and that's really what makes the game stand out from other similar type games. The combat is fairly simplified. It's I roll a bunch of d10s, my ships hit on this amount. You roll a bunch of d10s, your ships hit on that amount, and we take our losses and remove them from the table. The defender gets to choose losses, which is a big thing in this. So, of course, you have little things like fighters that are expendable. You remove them first because they're literally there to take hits. You build up your fleets, you build up your resources, and you have a bunch of different types of ships. I didn't even get them all out. There's destroyers, dreadnoughts, and then, of course, the frighteningly scary war suns. They're kind of like mini Death Stars. And then every race has a flagship that is unique to their race and has its own abilities. So you have a combination of all these different things out here. And yeah, just a real interesting strategic element to the game. It's area control. You're trying to take and hold the planets to get the resources from them. It's politics. You're making deals with your neighbors to trade goods with them. Everybody gets a certain amount of these commodities, which are useless to yourself, but once you trade them with somebody, they can be spent as resources, just like anything else from a planet. There's just a lot of little ins and outs of things. Probably the most complicated part of the game is the interaction because there's 17 different races in the base game. Another 6, 8, I can't remember how many there's 25 in total now. Each one of them interacts with a different one in different ways, and they all have unique abilities and unique tech upgrades and unique trade promissory notes. And in the end, there's so many different combinations of things, and that's what makes the game complicated. But a lot of what takes the game length, as I said before, is the politics, the arguing back and forth, the trying to wheel and deal. And you always want things to come out in your favor, obviously, because nobody wants to lose out on a trade deal. But at the same time, you have to make your trade deal appealing to them, so you may have to sacrifice something in order to get what you want. And that's the aspect of the game that really draws me in. That's the part of the game that I enjoy. And it keeps me coming back week after week to play. One of the other big jokes is that because there's 24 official factions, there's a 25th faction that came out in the Codex 3 because it was the 25th anniversary, and they made it official basically. So it's 25 factions in total, and as we said, we play at least once a month. Once a month in person, and then I might play a couple games online on the side, but once a month it will take you over 2 years to try every faction in the game, and that's another huge thing this game has going for it. It's just the amount of variety and the fact that no two games are ever really the same. And I know a lot of people say that about a lot of games, but it's really true for this one. And despite, the core things are the same. You're going for Mecatol. You want to open up that new phase for the agenda, and you start voting on those laws. And I don't really talk about that in this video, but the once Mecatol Rex in the center of the board has been taken by someone, you open up a whole new phase where you're going to be drawing 2 of these cards each turn. And their laws are things that say impermanent. There's also, what's the other one called? Directives, which are like one-time things. And each turn, one of these is going to get drawn. You go through, there's this one's an elect player, but generally they have a for and against. So in this case, here you vote for this, this happens. If you vote against it, this happens. Everybody puts in votes, uses their influence from the planets they control to put a number towards that. Whichever side wins, that's the effect that triggers. In the case of these, you elect a specific player, and then that effect happens if whoever player wins. And once that phase has begun, you're going to do 2 of those around where different things are going to be elected and happen. And if you spend all of your resources on the first, or your influence on the first one, thinking, oh, no, that's terrible for me, I don't want that, and you dump a ton of resources into it, you're not going to have that influence to spend to vote on the second one. So it's a gamble, because you could save a bunch for the second one, and the second one's something stupid that you don't care about, and it doesn't matter which way it goes. So you just saved those votes from the first vote. You didn't vote, or you only voted with half of your votes or whatever because you wanted to save them, and then come to find out the thing you saved them for doesn't matter. So now they've been wasted for the turn. And that's kind of an interesting aspect that gets added onto the game as well. But a lot of this game, I think, comes down to the people you play it with. And I know that because the first couple games we played were with some friends that I played games with at home. And it's not the same as going out and playing with the public group. How did this happen? That what happened last game. Oh well. Tokens are in the wrong place. Anyway, the first couple games that we played were with these local guys that come to my house all the time. We play games together. And it's not the same as the group of people that, we play this with at the game store that we play every month with. They are, I don't know how these go back in here. They fit somehow. Oh, there, I got it that time. It was a different experience, and one of the guys really wasn't into it, and it didn't enjoy it, and it just wasn't that fun. But now that we play with a group of guys who are dedicated to the game and love it and enjoy it, and you can tell definitely it's a completely different experience. So if you did play and you weren't so keen on it, it may have been the players you were playing with. I would definitely give it another try, but it is a game that's not for everyone. It is a day-long commitment. You're looking at, depending on the players, you can play a 4-player game we've done in under 6 hours. Once you start getting 5 to 6 players, the game does take a little longer. But again, it depends on how talkative the people are, what races are being played, things like that. New players or experienced players. But it is considered an all-day commitment when you're looking to play and set a day around it. That's what we do. And it ends up being a lot of fun. I think we've only had 1 game canceled due to time in all the games we've played, because we were playing a local game store and it became time for closing, so we called it. And other than that, Most of our games have ended in a reasonable amount of time, and there are resources online. There's a couple different discords for Twilight Imperium. There's one for Twilight Imperium. It's just an online group that they get together, but they have some cool league rules, and we've adopted their league rule that if a game goes to 8 hours, there's like a sudden death type thing, and that's worked really well for us. We've only used it once, I think, but we didn't really even need to use it too. It turned out. But anyway, there's a lot of optional house rule type things you can add into the game, but as it is, the game plays just fine. We really haven't had to change much of anything. Overall, though, I think it is a great game. I don't think it gets played enough by a lot of people because of the length. It is a massive game. It takes all day. And I guess probably the only thing bad I have to say about it is because it takes so long, it is very easy for you to put in hours and hours into a game and then realize about halfway through that you're kind of screwed and you don't have a lot of chance of winning. And there's ways to come back. You can trade people support for the throne, be like, hey, I'm in the back. I'll give you this if you give me your support. And you can collect a couple of people's support. That boosts you up points real quick. So there are ways to come back. And with some groups of people, they will do that just to keep you in the game. But on the other side, yeah, if you come with people who don't want to trade with you, don't want to deal with you because you're no threat, you're in the back, then it becomes a problem. And I can see where someone could get bored in an 8 hour game if they really have no chance of winning and they're not really doing anything. So there is that aspect. That's something to watch out for. But with, like I said, with the right group of players, they'll work with you. They'll work around that, and they'll keep you relevant to the game. The one big thing is being in the last place. People are more likely to want to deal with you and trade with you because you're no threat to them. They're not going to trade with the guy in second place and boost them up, and suddenly now they have someone threatening them. They want to trade with the guy in last place because even if you gain a point or two, you're still not a threat at that point. And it's kind of built into the game that way, and I like that aspect of it. But like I said, I can see where that could upset some people in such a long game if they get to a point where they don't feel they have a chance. And that's where a lot of the table talk and things come with. That's why a lot of the games, like I said, run long. Is not because of the game; it's because of the banter back and forth, the wheeling and dealing and things. And those really come into play in a game where somebody's not doing very well, because you could still make them feel relevant. You can still make them a part of the game and make them want to keep playing. And thankfully, our group's been pretty good about it. We haven't really had anyone, maybe one game in all the ones we've played where somebody just really wasn't into it and then kind of gave up halfway through. But other than that, yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. Overall, I think it's a great game. It's definitely one where anybody who's a fan of sci-fi should experience once. It might not be your kind of game. You might not ever want to play it again, and that's okay. There's plenty of games out there for everyone. But if you're looking for a big, epic space opera, I mean, this really makes it feel like you're expanding a civilization. You're starting out with a single planet and a handful of ships, and by the end, you have massive fleets and an entire empire that you're trying to defend. And that to me is really cool. The drawback is it takes a lot of time to get there. The other side to it is that the opening turns are kind of a slow crawl while you explore out and you get planets, you bring them into your fold. The planets come exhausted, so it takes a turn before you can use them for resources. So it's very slow the first couple of turns while you're expanding, while you're establishing your borders. Once you start making contact with other races, though, most of our games I think have ended on turn 5, 6 at the latest. Turn 5 is pretty much when the crap hits the fan and things go to war. Generally, if you're looking for a straight up combat, there are races that excel at that. But a lot of the early turns of games are prepping, building up, collecting resources, getting yourself ready to build those big fleets, to go do those giant battles, to build up the tech you need to make yourself more aggressive and things like that. So it's a slow grind at the beginning. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, and by the end, you've got this massive fleet. And we have some pictures I posted on Discord a while ago of one of our battles where a guy was about to win, and we stormed their home planet, and we used the fleet stands to move our fleets around, and we ended up with a tower it was probably 6 stands high of their defensive fleet plus our offensive fleets attacking, and it was a lot of fun, and it was chaos, and that's the way I like to see the games come out, with some big epic battle for the end. One of my biggest complaints about Star Trek Ascendancy, which is another one of my favorite space games, is that the ending just kind of happens, especially when they win by Ascendancy, and you get all this couple hour long build up, and then oh yeah, I won, and the game's over, and it's yeah. In this, you could say, oh hey, he's at 9 points, we got to do something, and everybody dog piles on the leader, and it's a lot of fun, and I really like the way that that turns out, and the way that the game comes to that climax. And that's just really what's drawn me to it, and I definitely see myself playing this and our group playing this for a long time to come. If you're ever in the upstate New York area, check us out. We have a couple Discord links. I don't know if I ever posted it on here, but I have my personal Discord, as well as there's an upstate New York Twilight Imperium group. I can put that one. I don't usually put my personal one out there, but I'll put the upstate New York one in the description below, so you can check that out if you're interested, and come join us for a game. We've had people come from 2 hours away in the state here to join us for a game, so definitely fun, and definitely, like I said, anybody who's into sci-fi games, it's worth checking out. Play it at least once and see if it's for you, and if you don't like it, move on. There's plenty of other games out there, but I think if you're into the same kind of games I am, you're going to like it. Its biggest aspect, or biggest trouble, is getting it to the table, and if you can overcome that, it's an awesome game. I think I've ranted along enough on this one, so we're going to wrap it up here. As always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.